Xbox 360 シューターコレクションスペシャル。
Hey, and thanks for joining this new one-off special. I'm Bastish B and welcome to 64K. And today we're going to have a look at 10 Xbox 360 shoot 'em up releases. 5 that were released exclusively in Japan and 5 for Western countries like Europe and the US, with a total of 13 games. This video isn't a top 10 of the best Xbox 360 shooters. This is simply, if you love the genre on the 360, then these are awesome games to look out for. So let's not waste any more time and jump right into the show. And here's a quick look at today's 13 games. Bullet Soul, released in 2016 and published by 5PB. Muchi Pork and Pink Sweets, released in 2011 by Cave. Akai Katana, released in 2011 by Rising Star Games. Espgaluda 2, Black Label, released in 2010 by Cave. Eschatos, released in 2011 and published by Cute Corporation. Dodonpachi, Ressurection, released in 2010 by Rising Star Games. Ryden Fighter Aces, published in 2008 by Valcon Games. Otomedious Excellent, published in 2011 by Konami. Mushihimesa Futari version 1.5, released in 2009 by Cave. And Deathsmiles, released in 2009 by Access Games. So let's dive into the Japanese releases first and start with Bullet Soul, which was released in 2011 on the Xbox 360 exclusively to Japan by 5PB. The game is region free though, so import friendly to any Xbox 360. This is a relentless vertically scrolling bullet hell shooter that can be played in 1 or 2 player modes. Even though the game features 2 modes, story and score attack, the story in this version is non-existent. Just jump in and blast the hell out of everything arcade style. You can choose between 3 different characters that are slightly different in terms of power and weapon fire, and then jump on into the 5 stages. It's not a very long game, but it's very addictive, and playing through it with each character does feel quite a bit different for every run through. This is definitely a beginner friendly bullet hell game though, based on one of its main mechanics, that if you shoot a ship that has already shot a barrage of bullets at you, they disappear once he's destroyed, making screens that look like infinite death disappear in seconds if you destroy the right ship. Also, you can set the standard screen killing bombs to auto mode if you want, which will activate if you take a bullet, therefore saving your life. It's these features that make it way easier to play than your standard bullet hell game. Your main weapons don't change, but basically get upgraded along the way, with you using a combination of the X button to shoot a much more straight, powerful, concentrated shot, or pressing A to use a weaker spread shot that takes up the entire screen, Truxton style. The graphics are really good 2D styled, but done in 3D, with some pretty cool looking stages and massive impressive bosses and mid-bosses to nuke. The soundtrack is excellent. It's like an 80s rock metal orchestra, constantly spurring you on in a symphony of destruction. This original version of the game also comes with a CD soundtrack as a bonus, which is awesome. This game was eventually released a few years later, again on the 360, titled Infinite Burst, with a lot of added extras. Overall, this is a really enjoyable, beginner-friendly Japanese exclusive game that is well worth the time tracking down.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Next up was a 2-shot of Japan exclusives with the double pack of Muchi Pork and Pink Sweets, both games by Cave, released in 2011. This is the 2013 Cave the Best Greatest Hits version. Both games were designed by Shinobu Yagawa, who did classics like Battle Garega at Rising and Ibarra on the PS2. Let's jump first into my favorite of the two, being Muchi Pork, based on the 2007 arcade version. This is a much more light-hearted game of the two, giving you 5 levels of vertical cute-em-up bullet hell action for 1 or 2 players. The game's theme is pigs and pork. Don't question it, just go with it, with the story revolving around 3 girls who get made plump by the evil General Pork Fillet. The girls want revenge on them for basically making them fat, and jump on their pig hoverbikes to exact their revenge. The game sports multiple modes such as arcade, arrange, and score attacks, and is pretty easy to get into and play. It's a cave shooter, so things get bullet helly real fast. A is your regular fire, X unleashes a smart bomb, which is unique to each girl, as some mad rampaging mech shows up and starts smashing stuff up. And using B unleashes your super large special, which needs to be charged up but unleashes a powerful constant blast that obliterates everything in your path. The game is very likable in all ways. Bubbly music, fantastic graphics with lots of humor and wacky fun to be seen everywhere, and some cool bosses and characters. The difficulty is mid. You're gonna have to have some decent bullet dodging skills to enjoy it, but with a bit of practice you should be able to get pretty far without too much hassle. The other game is Pink Sweets, which has a little bit more of a serious tone and is based on an arcade game from 2006. It's set in the same universe as Ibara, a previous game by Shinobu Yagawa. It's another vertical bullet hell affair with 4 girls to choose from and has a steampunk styled look and feel. All the boss and mid-boss tropes are here, with you having regular fire and a kind of charge shot that can absorb bullets, at the same time acting as a shield, and you can also unleash it as a smart bomb as well. It's a mechanic that takes a little bit getting used to, but works well once you understand it. This game is way harder than Muchi Pork, and the graphic style is not quite as engaging. The music is good but a bit forgettable. It's simply not a memorable cave game by any means. It's not bad at all, just a bit forgettable. But as a double pack of obscure Japanese shooters, I'm certainly not gonna complain, even if Muchi Pork is a much more fun game to play overall. Next up was Eschatos, released originally in 2011 in Japan on the 360 by Cute. And like all these Japanese games we're looking at here, this one is region free, making it playable on any Xbox. The game itself is a vertical shooter, although it has a preset camera that shifts perspectives on the gameplay as it goes, giving you really cinematic moments, especially with the massive boss encounters. Your goal is to wipe out an alien invasion force that has set up shop on the moon and is planning its final assault on Earth. This game is a lot more straightforward than some of the cave shooters we've been looking at, with Original, Time Attack, and Advanced Mode. Original lets you blast your way through 6 levels, each one made up of many subparts, with a long-range focus attack, a weak spread shot, and bomb icons that get dropped by enemies, which when collected immediately detonate, so there's no hoarding of the mega bombs for boss encounters later. You also have a shield that you can activate to absorb damage. Advanced mode is a little bit more traditional in the sense that you can collect power-ups to increase your firepower, but at the expense of decreasing your shield. As a bonus as well, the disc comes packed with 2 other games, Judgment, Silver Sword, and Cardinal Sins, 2 very fun score attack games that were originally released on the Japanese handheld WonderSwan console, and are very cool extras to get as bonus. Graphically, Eschatos is a 2D game done with modern 3D, which is pretty decent without being amazing. They do the job, and it has a pretty good arcade style soundtrack. It's a very easy game to play, making it an entry level Japanese shooter that almost anyone should be able to play and get very far in. So for beginners, it's highly recommended. And back to the Maniacs at K for Espgaluda 2, Black Label, released in 2010 on the 360, based on Cave's 2005 arcade game. If you like options in games, then this game gives you almost too many, to be perfectly honest. But the main ones are Arcade, which is the simple arcade version, a 360 mode giving you the same game but with an HD graphics overhaul, and the other modes for the most part offer extra characters to play with. It's another region-free game and a 1 or 2 player vertical shooter that gives you 3 different characters to choose from in the regular mode, with very different weapon styles, and unloads on the bullet hell style as soon as the game starts in an unrelenting manner. You have multiple fire modes and the ability to absorb bullets with a shield and charge up for some mega shots and mow through the masses. The destruction is immensely satisfying, never letting up for even 1 second, with a gorgeous looking steampunk style setting as you destroy thousands of mechanized creations. This is not an entry level game, although there is has a novice mode for beginners, it's still a bullet hell in the end. It also includes tate mode if you want to turn your monitor and experience the full arcade style aspect ratio, and is accompanied by a super techno styled soundtrack by Manabu Namiki, who is known for his excellent shooter soundtracks, having worked on Deathsmiles and Metal Slug 6 and much more, and currently works at M2 as a sound director for the company. This is a mesmerizing experience that veterans should soak up. And the last Japanese release here is another cave bullet hell extravaganza called Mushihimesa Futari version 1.5, based off a re-released second version of the arcade game in 2011. It's another one of those crazy, unrelenting vertical bullet hell blitzkriegs that simply fills the screen with bullets in the most chaotic way, but somehow still manages to make it feel like you have a chance, and is extremely enjoyable to play. Like Espgaluda 2, the game is loaded with multiple options, way too much to be perfectly honest again, as you don't really even know what you should be playing or even starting with. But basically it boils down to three main modes: version 1.5 based on the re-released arcade, a ranged mode based on an earlier PS2 release, and the Xbox version, which is the arcade with a HD graphics makeover. I just really like the look and feel of this game. The organic bug creatures are a really nice change from the generic spaceships, giving the visuals a lush feel, and features characters designed by Toshiyuki Kotani, who's worked at Sekiro, SNK, and Cave, contributing characters to epic series like The King of the Fighters, Pink Sweets, and much more. The game features 5 stages overall, with bosses and mid-bosses around every corner to annihilate. You got bombs in the traditional sense, and if you have some in stock, they act as defense if you hit. Your dodging skills are going to have to be really up to par if you want any hope of playing this game. The soundtrack is also pretty good, with the traditional styled orchestral sound humming away in the background destruction. This game has gone on to become a classic in the best sense, and is definitely one of Cave's most beloved shooters.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Now let's head on over to the West for 5 Xbox 360 releases that hit up Western shores. Let's start with the release of Raiden Fighters Aces, a compilation of 3 Raiden arcade shoot-em-ups from the 90s by Seibu Kaihatsu. This compilation was released by Success, with various other companies such as Velcon and Trade West handling the US and Europe releases. What we have here is 1996's Raiden Fighters, 1997's Raiden Fighters 2 Operation Helldive, and 1998's Raiden Fighters Jet, all direct conversions of the arcades, all presented with 2-player modes intact, and the option for the real arcade aspect ratio with tate mode. We're just going to have a look at all 3 of these games together because they're all very similar in gameplay and style, and are 100% arcade blast fests. Not bullet hells at all, just hopped up versions of what you'd consider classic 90s style vertical shooters. You got a host of extras with multiple difficulties, score attack, and boss rush modes. All the standards for these kinds of releases. These games all give you a massive selection of planes to choose from per entry, and get more and more with each release. The weapons and speed of each plane are very dramatically different, so it's definitely worth experimenting with, like all these kinds of games. Each level is broken down into short, intense levels where you mow down thousands of enemies and mini-bosses. The final bosses of each stage are massive and take up the entire level, and you have to destroy pieces of it until he's finally taken out. The upgrades come fast and furious: rapid fire, spread shots, mini drones to help you, smart bombs. Every single cliche of 90s shmups is here, with excellent sound effects and stunning 2D pixel art and scrolling effects. Make everything destroyed and explode in an extremely satisfying way. The music is also a product of the times, with crazy techno beats that sounds like something out of the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, and it's freaking awesome. These games play and feel like none of the other games we've previously looked at here, making them an excellent retro-styled alternative to everything the Xbox 360 had to offer. And let's jump on back to Cave and their continuation of the Dodonpachi series with Dodonpachi Ressurection Deluxe Edition, which is region free and only got a Japan and Europe release by Rising Star Games. It's the 5th game in the series based on the 2008 arcade game. This one is not for rookies. It's full-on hardcore shooting action that doesn't hold your hand and kills you quickly. It does, however, have a much less hectic novice mode, but that kinda takes away from the chaos you want from one of these types of games. But still, it's a good option. As you can see, it's a vertical bullet hell in the most blatant sense. There's so much happening on screen sometimes you literally lose your ship in the madness. You choose one of these robot girls who travel to the past to try and stop a future war. You got different ships with different positives and negatives, and the choice of shot styles. Bomb style is where you can activate your own smart bombs. Power style is where you can switch the power of your regular attacks at the expense of speed, and strong style gives you the option to have up to 6 extra weapon attachments. There are, as usual, tons of different modes as per Cave standards, with score attack being absolutely mental and is definitely something you need to experience once in your life. The graphics are gorgeous as expected with them, with meaty sound effects, although the soundtrack gets completely lost in this game. It's good, but you'll have to take a listen to it separately for the full effect, with this release coming with a full extra CD version to enjoy. Overall, I'd only recommend this game to veterans, as it's clearly who it's aimed for. And next was Otomedious Excellent by Konami, a horizontal shooter released exclusively on the 360, and a sequel to Otomedious Arcade from 2007. This is such a divisive game to talk about. On the one hand, I don't really like it, and on the other, it can be kinda satisfying in a super grindy way. The basics are, it's a spin-off of sorts of the Gradius series, having that exact same style of pickups and selection style gameplay as that series is used to, with all its other tropes as well, being that you are ridiculously underpowered, it takes really long to get any satisfying weapons, and don't die in the wrong place because you can get yourself really screwed up in a level or especially a boss encounter. It can be a really annoying game to play. The more you play it though, the more you can upgrade your character, and that makes the whole experience way more satisfying. Unfortunately, it requires an insane amount of grinding and playing and replaying of the 8 levels, so much that you probably won't want to ever see them ever again. The positives are quite a few though, with gorgeous presentation and an excellent music score with tons of remixes of classic Konami tracks that you'll definitely recognize. And each girl and her ship represents a Konami franchise such as Gradius, Twinbee, Castlevania, etc, etc. The fan service here is absolutely through the roof. The graphics are a bit of a mixed bag, using 3D and a 2D style. It's just very basic and unsatisfying. Back when it was originally released, it got absolutely destroyed in the reviews, although it's not as bad as they make it out. Modern journalism is all about over-the-top reviews to gain attention and forgets to be human sometimes. Alas, if you're up for a grind, this is for you. But if you want that instant shoot 'em up gratification, then you need to move on to the next game. Something like Akai Katana, a horizontal bullet hell by Cave based on a 2010 arcade version, and was released on the 360 in 2012 in all regions by Rising Star Games, who are a British company who have been delivering excellent Japanese releases to Western audiences since about 2005, with games such as Deadly Premonition and No More Heroes being amongst their many published works. The game has you choose one of the members of a team to jump in a World War II style plane and stop some crazy Japanese dictator who's been using the mythical blood swords to conquer the world. Your team has got a couple of these swords and sets out to destroy him. The game is presented you in big, visually impressive HD style, with 6 massive stages in total to take on. You have different fire modes, like being able to switch between a more defensive style or a stronger attack mode, and you can collect energy to charge up your super shot and smart bombs for instant death situations. It's a very satisfying game to play on so many levels. It's balanced extremely well to a mid difficulty, which is challenging but manageable even if you're not an expert in bullet hells. The complete opposite of Dodonpachi Ressurection. The levels and bosses are just fun to play through, with some great music as well, and is definitely one of Cave's best horizontal shooters, at least in my opinion. And our final game of this video comes down to Deathsmiles, probably my favorite of all the games we've looked at here today, and another horizontal shoot 'em up from Cave, released on the 360 in 2009, based on their 2007 arcade game. Deathsmiles was directed by Junya Ino, who also did the arcade Espgaluda. His goal was to make the game as easy as possible and accessible to regular gamers, so everyone could enjoy it, and he nailed it 100%. Cave have jammed this release with a whopping 6 different versions of this game, And if you're confused as to what to try to go with first, try out the regular 360 version, which has the enhanced HD graphic and is my personal favorite way to play it. The original arcade version is also here, but the window is just really small to play in properly, and the Black Label version gives you an extra character and level to play through, and is also pretty much recommended. The game gives you an assortment of 5 angels to choose from to try to stop monsters from invading the mystical world of Gilverado. In the game you can get attacked from both left and right, with a regular shot, a focused attack and smart bombs. You also get to choose your path through the game, which gives you a chance to try out new levels, and there's also a simple story element as well between some of the levels and characters, which is a welcome addition. You know you're playing a cave game when the mentalness of getting attacked by a giant cow hits you up. I love this kind of craziness. It features an excellent orchestral score, lovely use of pre-rendered graphics, which can often be done really badly, but works so well here, and it's just a fun, well-balanced entry-level shoot-'em-up for many people to enjoy, and is my personal recommended 360 shooter that you should check out of everything we've looked at today. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the show and a look at a whole bunch of cool shoot 'em ups. Many of these over the last few years have actually made their way to modern consoles, but some of them are still Xbox 360 exclusive releases. Thanks for joining me, Bastish B, at 64K. I hope you had a good time. And if you can please like and subscribe, they'll be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.
With an